So let's take a look now at making some ceilings. Call these ceiling clouds. At least that's how they're referred to many times. That's because they actually appear to be floating underneath the other ceiling structure. And there's many reasons why we want to do this. One is in an open space like we have, where we might have an unfinished top ceiling with a lot of HVAC system running through and ductwork and that. We may want to create a more finished area to house things like lighting systems. We can place acoustical surfaces on these to help reduce noise. We can place HVAC components like diffusers and other ductwork terminations in them. And they also can be used to define spaces to help kind of sculpt the area to direct people. Like in this case, we're going to make a long linear piece of a ceiling cloud with acoustical ceiling tiles in it. And it kind of defines a walking corridor. This one, the other one that's curved, finds this little meeting area. And then we have some over the desk, maybe to control acoustics. So let's go ahead and get started with this. I'm going to go to our Revit document, and I'll just zoom out so you can see where we are. And we're on the mezzanine level. And actually, when we draw ceiling systems, we use what's called a reflected ceiling plan. So we have our floor plans open, and I always caution you to kind of keep the ceiling plans closed, because if you accidentally select them, they'll be very confusing when you're doing normal drawing, when you're not working specifically on the ceiling. Because if I was to, just for example, if I was to click on the mezzanine, you'll notice that and I'll just save this a minute. You'll notice the mezzanine looks exactly like the mezzanine floor plan drawing. And so it can be very easy to get confused. But if I was to switch to the mezzanine level, kind of zoom out to the same area, you can see we're looking down on it. And with a reflected ceiling plan, what we're actually doing is we're looking up at the ceiling. And it's almost as if we had a mirror on the floor and we're looking down at the floor and then see the ceiling reflected up and what was contained on it. Which means that if we draw a lighting fixture, we're looking at the face of the lighting fixture as if we were looking up towards the ceiling at it. So this really kind of helps to simplify layout, because it gives a one-to-one correspondence in the drawing. It's not like we have to flip the whole floor plan. So let's go ahead and get started with this. We're going to make a long corridor here. So I'm going to go to Architecture, Ceiling, and mine's coming up 2x4 acoustical ceiling tile ACT system. And we're going to just pick the 2x2. That's a little more elegant, if you could call that a term for acoustical ceiling tiles. 2x2 square. And we're going to sketch the ceiling instead of using the automatic tool. We're going to make sure that it sits high enough, so we're going to at least put it 12 feet high, I think, to start with. And I'm just going to draw a rectangle now. And we know that this is the edge of the mezzanine. So I'm going to just start over here and just draw out a rectangle. I'm going to make this 4 feet wide, so that would include two panel systems. And I just had it, and now I've lost it. So let me just zoom in here and see if I can come close enough without having to type it. And we'll make some adjustments here. Not too critical about how close it comes to the edges. I'll just hold it back a little bit. And we're a little bit away, as you'll notice, from the edge of the railing system. And if you don't like where it is, you can select the whole thing and then use the Move command to reposition it. So I'm going to click Complete, and you'll notice it makes our grid system for us. Now this is a little problematic the way it's drawn, because it has the grid. It has, if we were to place a lighting fixture in one of the 2x2s, it would be slightly, they would be offset from each other. I'm going to correct that problem by taking this grid right now and moving it over. So you can actually select this grid and edit it. So I'm going to select the center line of the grid, and then I'm going to use the Move command and move it up 1 foot. And you'll notice now that makes half tiles on both sides. So later on, when we go and place the lighting fixtures, they'll be centered in that system. So let's go ahead and just take a peek at what we've drawn here. So I'm going to grab the View tool and get a quick camera view. And I'll come out in a space where there's no floor here and just shoot back at it. Because that way we'll be able to see the other ceiling constructions we do. And so there's our grid system now hanging over that walkway. And I put it at 12 feet, but as you can see, it seems like it's clipping out the windows a little bit. So let's see if we maybe move this to maybe 14. That's maybe a little excessive. Let's go back. Let's try 13. and that comes right to the same level as the tops of the windows. So there can be, you know, and I guess if we want to get a little fussy about it, I'm going to go to 13 feet 6 inches. That'll put us just a little bit above it. So that's the start of a acoustical ceiling tile system. You can see how the grid is laid out. Now let's go back to that mezzanine view again, and let's make a few what we call those clouds, but this time we're going to make them out of gypsum board. So I'm going to go back to our architecture palette, grab the ceiling tool, and this time I'm going to select gypsum wallboard on a metal stud. That means we'll frame it out with a metal stud and then place gypsum wallboard, probably 1/2 inch thick, and we'll sketch the ceiling. I'll zoom in here. Now we're going to place 2 desks underneath here, so let's just let's kind of conceptualize, you know, some kind of quick ceiling cloud system, and we'll make it a little bit decorative, but let's do that by, I'll pull this out. We'll make these 5 feet, and then let's curve the front of it. So I'm going to actually take that and delete it, and I'll grab the spline tool, and let's just, you know, pick some kind of a shape here. And then I'm going to modify this. We always know that our pink outlines always have to touch each other correctly. Can't keep elements joined, it's saying. So let's just, not sure. So we're just going to unjoin the elements, and we'll come back to that. I want to just make this kind of dip in a little bit. And then let's figure out what we can do here to make sure these join properly. There we go. All right, so that's completed. It's at the 12-foot level. That's a little bit lower. We'll say that's okay. I'll complete that. And let's go ahead and mirror that over right away. So we have 2 of those. Try to, kind of wanted to pick the center here, but we're not getting a center indication for the beam, so I'm just going to wing it. That looks pretty good. Maybe a little better space from the bathroom is good. And now let's make one more cloud, one more ceiling cloud. So these are at 12 feet. So let's make the other one a little bit lower. And let me click on this. Yes, it says that it's at 12 feet. So we'll go to architecture, ceiling, and we'll now do another sketch of a ceiling. I'll grab the rectangle tool. I'll just have one that's kind of overlapping here. And I'm going to put this one at 11 feet. And we're going to change that front edge on it. Maybe we'll just put a radius on it. And, you know, I'm really just showing you how to kind of like go through and sketch these things out. Not really trying to do much in the way of design, as you can see. Let's take a look at that in the 3D view. These look a little bit shallow to me. It might be nicer to thicken these up, but I'm going to let that go because we're going to do the next one we're going to make is a thick one, so you can see how you make those thicker. So the last one we're going to do is another floating gypsum wallboard ceiling, but it's going to be over that a little curved meeting area that we're going to develop. So once again, I'm going to grab the ceiling tool, but this time I'm going to modify the ceiling by making it thicker. So I'm going to duplicate it, and I'll just call it gypsum wallboard on, let's say, thick metal stud. And get rid of the 2. And we'll go ahead and edit that. Oops, I'm sorry, that's not showing up on your screen. I just duplicated that and then gave it the term thick metal stud. I apologize for that. And we'll go ahead and edit that structure. And I want to change this number, let's say to, let's say 16 inches. And click OK. And OK. And now we're ready to draw with that. So let's grab our sketching tool, and I'm going to use this edge of the wall as a guide, and we're just going to come out here and we're just going to kind of wing this for a minute. I'm going to change the length of this to, let's say, 4 feet. Let's see what that looks like. Maybe we'll do, oops, excuse me. Maybe I'll do 3 feet. And I'm just going to move this a little further away from the wall because this is going to go over the table. Now I'll mirror this. This is to hold the lights that we would want to have over that table. So I'm going to go ahead and mirror this. Find the center line of our divider wall here. And we have that mirrored over. And then I'm going to use the arc tool, start, endpoint. And we'll just eyeball this so it looks like it's the same amount of curvature. And then we're going to actually take this one and copy it over to the front. And I'll click complete with that. And then let's take a look and see what that looks like in the 3D view. And that one looks like it's probably a little bit high, so let's move that one down to 10 feet. So that has a little more of a presence to it. Actually, probably a bad idea. Well, 10 feet is fine. This just gives us a little bit of sculpting. Let's go ahead and take this wall back here and move that up. So that's unconnected to 10 feet. Let's take it up to 12 feet. There we go. So things are kind of nesting together there a little bit. All right, so that really completes the idea of our, let's see if we can get a better view of this. I'm going to go ahead and go back to the mezzanine view and maybe take this from a different angle over here. And kind of open up our, and we seem to be up a little high. So let's see, I'm going to go down to 10 feet or 15 feet here. Oops, that's down at the floor. But that's good because that helps to, what I want to do is just give you an idea what these ceiling systems look like now. So, okay, so next we'll look at putting some lighting in these.